What's up guys? Today we're going to be installing these Atlas Pro A-arms, but before we head to the shop, I wanted to give you a couple quick features. So right off the bat, when you look at these Atlas Pro arms, you can tell these things are straight beef. 38mm tubing, which is 1.5 inches in diameter, fully adjustable pivot blocks, and a wide variety of heavy duty ball joint options. So let's head on over to the shop and get these bad boys installed. First thing we're gonna do is remove the wheel and tire. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove our cotter pin from our axle and then our castle nut. Use a 27mm socket to remove the castle nut. Make sure you remove the washer. And we're gonna come to our tie rod end and go ahead and remove our hardware. And as you can see, this machine has some SuperATV products on it already, so the removal process is gonna be just a little bit different between ours and OE, but for the most part, everything's gonna be the same. The only minor differences may be the brake line hardware, maybe the tie rod end hardware, depending on if you have OEM tie rods or SuperATV. But what we're gonna do now is go ahead and remove the tie rod from the knuckle. Remove our hardware, and I like to just take whatever hardware I may have securing my tie rod and just fasten it right back to where it goes. And we'll go ahead and grab a 10mm socket to remove this bolt that's securing our brake line. And then what I like to do is just go ahead and put that bolt right back where it goes. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove all of our brake line hardware. Again, our hardware may be just a little bit different than yours. This machine is already equipped with a set of SuperATV A-arms. Once all our brake line hardware is removed, I like to just take my brake caliper and slide it right up on top of the differential. Just lay it up out of the way, just like so. Now we're gonna grab a hold of our hub, pull it off, and we'll set it aside. And then whenever you pull your hub off, make sure you pull your washer. It puts pressure on the wheel bearing there. And we're gonna come down here to our lower ball joint hardware. Go ahead and remove the cotter pin. Then we're gonna remove our castle nut. I don't remove mine all the way, I just run it down to about here, just like this. We're gonna get 2 hammers. We're gonna smack them right here on our arm until it separates. Once it separates, just remove your castle nut the rest of the way. Pull your lower arm off, let it hang. Makes it nice and easy. Now we're gonna remove our sway bar link hardware. Slide our link out of our arm. We'll just go ahead and take our nut and put it right back onto our sway bar link. Then we're gonna grab a strap, hook it up as high as we can, lift up on the arm here, remove our shock bolt, just like that. And what I like to do is just go ahead and put my shock hardware right back into my shock, so I know exactly where it goes. And we'll just kind of tie our shock up out of the way, as high as we can get it. We'll lift up on our arm so we can get our axle removed. Once our axle's removed, what I like to do is just lay it on the tie rod. You never want to let an axle hang. And this also gives us a really good spot to get in there to get to our upper ball joint hardware. So we'll just go ahead and remove cotter pin. Remove our cotter pin here, and then what we're gonna do is put our socket. And I like to let the steering arm bury itself out onto the A-arm. Crack that loose. Run it down, and then we're gonna smack it right here. As you can see, it's separated. What we're gonna do is just go ahead and remove castle nut. Off, put that right back on. Now we're gonna remove all our A-arm hardware. And I'm gonna remove this plastic actuator cover here. It just makes it so much easier to get on the head of the bolt. I like to be able to use an impact to get in here, buzz the hardware out. If you don't remove this actuator cover, you're gonna be stuck using a wrench or a short socket. Once our nuts are removed, let's go ahead and remove our hardware. Now we're going to remove our upper A-arm hardware. I'm going to crack the hardware loose and then use my electric ratchet, speed it up a little bit. Once our nuts are removed, we can go ahead and remove the bolts. Once the bolts are removed, you can remove your upper arm. So now that we have our arms removed from our machine, what we're gonna do is go ahead and remove the bushings out of our arms. The way we're gonna do that, I like to take an extension, slide it in here to the sleeve. Tap it right out. Then I like to grab a big flathead screwdriver and I like to angle it in sideways. And what I'm gonna do is tap down until I can get this bushing to wanna come out. So now we're ready to start prepping our A-arms for installation. You can reuse your OEM bushings with the SuperATV arms. I highly advise that you go ahead and just buy a bushing kit from SuperATV. It's well worth it. So what we're gonna do is take our bushings, we'll just slide them into the arms here. Be kind of a tight fit, so what I like to do is just take a dead blow. Tap them right in. Do this on both sides of the arm here. I'm gonna grab one of your sleeves. Sit it right in. Sleeve, slide it in, good to go. So we can get this arm out of the way, set it aside, or you can go ahead and mount it, totally up to you. We'll go ahead and grab our upper arm. It's the same exact process. Now we're going to grab our grease zerks. We're going to go ahead and thread them into our A-arms. This is on the lower here. I'm just going to thread it right in. Once you get it started, let's go ahead and fully tighten it. So one more thing that's great about the SuperATV Atlas Pro A-arm is that it's fully adjustable. So right here on the upper arm, this is what we call a pivot block. This is where you're gonna adjust your camber. So if you go to install these arms and you get it set down on the machine, your tire's leaning out, so your camber's positive, or it's leaning in, it's negative. You can make adjustments on these arms in order to correct that. So for every 2 complete 360-degree rotations of this pivot block, that's gonna equal 1 degree. So for example, if your tire's laid in, let's say 2 degrees negative, 3 degrees negative, and you want it to be 0. If it's 2 degrees, you would do 4 complete rotations. If it's 1 degree, you do 2 complete rotations in order to bring that tire from this point to this point sitting straight up and down. Very easy, all you have to do is loosen these jam nuts and then just thread these out. The most important thing is you want to make sure that they're equal side to side. So if you make 2 rotations here, you have to make 2 rotations here. So now we're going to grab our lower A-arm. I'm gonna go ahead and install it to the machine. Grab your hardware. We'll just go ahead and start our nuts. Your A-arm hardware. Just like that. Go ahead and get your nuts started. So now we're going to grab our knuckle, slide it onto our upper ball joint. Slide it onto our upper ball joint just like that, and we'll go ahead and fully tighten our hardware. So as you can see, I used a universal here. This is about the best way to tighten up this ball joint when it has a nylock nut. Otherwise, if you try to just put an equal amount of torque on it, like with a wrench or a socket, you're gonna end up just spinning the stud. Also, you probably seen me grab a hold and pull straight up on it. What that's doing is putting a load, a side load on that stud to where it'll grab enough to where we can run it up with an impact. Now we're gonna put our cotter pin in. We're gonna put our cotter pin in. Put it straight up. We're gonna grab our axle. Slide it back through our wheel bearing. Then at this point we can go ahead and cut our shock loose. Let it drop down. Go ahead and get it reinstalled into our A-arm as well. Just like that. Here's another product that you can upgrade from SuperATV. Is this lower ball joint. As you can see, we have a SuperATV upper ball joint. You can order these arms with the pre-installed upper, and the kit will also come with the lower that you just press in to your knuckle. So get it started up in there. Now we're gonna go ahead and fully tighten our lower castle nut. You want to make sure that you don't forget your bearing washer. Go ahead and put that on there. Grab your hub, slide it into position. Now we'll go ahead and grab our brake caliper. Get it repositioned here, just like so. Grab our brake caliper hardware. Fully tighten the brake caliper hardware. So right here, we're going to utilize the factory brake line clip. We're just going to utilize the brake line hardware that comes in the kit. Just want to get it lined up. Again, just get it good and started. Get your brake line hardware through. Now we're going to attach our sway bar link. Now we'll put our axle nut washer on. Axle nut. Fully tighten it. Once our axle nut's tight, we can go ahead and reinstall our cotter key. Now we're going to reinstall our tie rod. Just like so. We'll grab our 19 and we'll go ahead and fully tighten our tie rod in hardware. Once everything's fully tightened, you can go ahead and reinstall your wheel and tire. So now you're gonna do is repeat all these same steps on the opposite side, make sure all your hardware is fully tightened, and that's all there is to it to install SuperATV's Atlas Pro high clearance forward offset A-arms on this Kawasaki KRX 1000. Be sure to check the description below to pick yours up today, and while you're there, drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, we'll catch you on the next one.